What's going on, guys? Today I'm bringing you a much awaited video. Full day of eating with Alex Leonidas.
This should be good.
As many of you may know, I've been following a 100% plant-based diet for the last 2 years. And right now, I'll be showing you everything that I eat in a day to stay healthy, stay lean, and maximize my longevity.
Sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to seeing all the evidence you've got to support your claim that vegan diet promotes longevity, but yeah, open mind.
So what you'll see is that it's a very simple diet that most of you can replicate. It is inexpensive, tasty, efficient, and most importantly, evidence-based.
I've not heard of an evidence-based way of eating before, but go on. Open mind.
So I'm excited to share these meals with you. 3 meals a day, and this covers everything you need.
Everything you need on a vegan diet. Wow. So we're going to get cholesterol, we're going to get vitamin D3, A, K2. Fair play. I might be about to be proved wrong here.
So this will probably lower your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol.
Lower your cholesterol? The thing that every single one of your cells is made out of. Okay. Okay. Carry on.
Optimize your microbiome, and you'll even see that the micronutrients are through the roof given how low the calories are. So you will not be deficient in anything.
This is some big claims, boss. Even the average meat-eating person these days is deficient. So if you can get everything on a vegan diet, then fair play. You've got my attention, boy.
So without further ado, let's get into the full day of eating. What we have here is 30 grams of rolled oats.
Okay, we're off to a worrying start. Oats are terrible for your health. But your first meal, first food item listed. Let's give you a chance.
As well as 200 grams of blueberries. And these are wild frozen blueberries.
Normally blueberries aren't the best just because they're filled with pesticides and whatnot. But if this guy's getting them wild, it's not really too bad. It's just essentially sugar, vitamin C, a minimal amount of fiber, and some hydration. Could be worse, to be fair.
These are a very good source of antioxidants, amazing for brain health, and it's perfect to start the day where you're going to be tackling on your more cognitively difficult tasks.
Okay, full of antioxidants. Name one. Great for your brain health. Have you got any proof or any logic, any reasoning to support that? But as far as I'm aware, it's just sugar. The oats themselves are carbs, which break down into sugar in your body. So far, your first meal of the day is essentially just sugar.
So oats are very good for lowering cholesterol, they're low in fat, they're easy to digest, and you can even work out right after and not feel all bloated.
Okay, we're on to our first red flag. Oats are really good for lowering cholesterol. Cholesterol is kind of like the base building block for every cell in your body. Vitamin D comes from cholesterol. Testosterone comes from cholesterol. So by that logic, by eating oats, you're also lowering your testosterone, your vitamin D, your vitamin A, everything. And this is supposed to be great for brain health. It's low in fat though, which is actually also bad, seeing as our brains are mainly composed of fat. Good God, Alex, what happened to you?
This is all there is to it. I got some cinnamon in there too.
Cinnamon is incredibly toxic to our bodies. It's literally tree bark. You wouldn't ever go outside and find a tree and start gnawing at the fucking wood. So what makes you think that cinnamon is suddenly conducive to good health? Don't get me wrong, I actually like the taste of cinnamon too, but I would never delude myself into thinking it's healthy in any way.
There's no sugar, there's no syrup, there's no jams, there's no artificial sweeteners. To me, this tastes fantastic.
There's no added sugar, yeah, but the oats and blueberry are both carbs. They all break down into sugar in your body, so not really true.
And we got a little coffee. I used to drink a lot more. Just have a tiny amount of soy milk in here. I've been drinking coffee since I'm in grade 4, so it's been a lifetime. I've gone periods of time where I dropped it completely, and honestly, I'm just happier with coffee in my life, so screw it.
As a fellow spaghetti boy, I do relate with that. Coffee's so bad for you, but I fucking like the taste as well. I'm glad that you had periods in your life where you stopped, at least so you know the difference. I've personally not had any coffee now for about 3 months. Holy shit, I feel so much more alive, and I know I'm still recovering. But you've had breaks, I respect that. If you go back and you don't care, at least you've tried both, you've seen both sides of it. What can I say? I don't think it's healthy, but hey, you're not saying it's healthy, right?
And the data on coffee drinkers appears to be fine. You know, people who drink 3 cups a day are in a good position. Now, green tea is even healthier, and I'll accept that position. So is having hibiscus tea, which I consume on the regular. But I don't think this is harming me, especially I only drink this first thing in the morning. I do not have coffee in the afternoon or at nighttime, or else it gives me insomnia. And I think that's one of the problems that people go through when they're shredded, they're tired. Time your caffeine right. With this meal right here, you can either work or work out.
Okay, it looks like he is kind of implying that coffee's healthy, especially if he's implying green tea is healthy. Once again, I like all these things, but there's a difference between liking something and it being healthy. I like smoking. You're never going to see me saying that smoking's healthy. I do it because I'm stupid or because I fancy it. And it's the same with things like a tea. I do it because I'm stupid or because I fancy the taste. But if you're having tea or coffee when you don't even want it, specifically because you think you're gaining some health benefit from it, you're a victim, my friend. You are a victim.
All right, now I bring you to arguably the most important meal of the day, lunchtime, which features a massive salad with beans and the primary carb source, which also has more vegetables.
Salad, rice, beans, indigestible fiber, and more carbohydrates. Fucking hell. I think I'm having a stroke just at the thought of eating all this food.
So over here, we have arugula with lettuce, in addition to a 4-bean mixture with raw onion on top.
You think 1 bean would be enough, but 4 beans, fair play. Then raw onion. Obviously, onion's toxic, it's bad for us. You don't even need any studies for this. Chop into an onion, the chemicals in the air, never mind in what you eat. Just the airborne chemicals released, the defense chemicals from the onion are enough to make a grown man cry. You let me cry when you're eating onions, but they're good for you. Your body's crying just being near this toxic fucking plant. Once again, I actually like onions. I don't think they're healthy for you. And 4 beans, whew, good God. Must be like a trumpet with all the farts.
And what's on it is balsamic vinegar, no oil whatsoever, no salt, not 1 drop of either. I'm SOS free.
I'd have thought you'd have used olive oil, to be fair, with a salad being a spaghetto as well. But this lets me know that you actually still have some prefrontal cortex left up there somewhere. Because oil is, yes, a processed food. It's not really good for us. Olive oil as well. I say this with Italian heritage. It's not really good for our health. It's still processed shit either way. So you do good. This tells me that maybe it's worth me doing this video. I don't think you're ever going to see it, but if you do, there's at least something back there that might still have independent thought.
This is the bed of the greens. So the arugula is really good for nitric oxide production. You can also swap in beets, but be careful with the oxalates.
See, oxalates as well. You're a smart dude. I see the potential up there in your brain. You're aware about oxalates being bad for you, but you're still trying to make this vegan diet work. Is it ethics, Alex? Is it ethics why you're doing it? Because I understand then as well, but I'm going to need a different type of video made. But if you're genuinely doing this for health, come on. Oxalates are bad, but so are all the other chemicals and this shit you're eating.
This is my primary green of choice. I prefer this over, say, spinach or Swiss chard. And then the balsamic vinegar helps activate some of the phytochemicals.
The balsamic vinegar helps to activate the phytochemicals. Phyto, plant, chemicals. it's plant chemicals, aka chemicals that the plants use to defend itself from things trying to eat it. I don't know, seems like a bit of pseudoscience there, brother. Balsamic vinegar, I guess the acidity could make it so it's easier to digest certain foods. And it's just tasty, so I get you with that, but...
The raw onion is anti-cancer, of course.
Raw onion, bro. Anti-cancer. Evidence? Of course. Have you got literally anything to back up that very strong claim you're making? Us onions literally make you cry. They inflame you. If onions are that good for you, how's about you eat a kilogram of raw onions on its own and see how your tummy's feeling? Like, just the fact that if you eat... You can tell when someone's eating onions. It makes you stink. You know, if onions were so good for us, wouldn't they make us smell in a way that appeals to our senses? You know, this is just not evidence-based either that I'm doing. You're not giving evidence, why should I? But, you know, I'm just giving some logic without evidence. We don't need evidence. I don't need evidence to know that burning my tongue will harm my tongue, for instance. It's common sense, but yeah, whatever.
We got some hemp seeds, which also aid in the absorption, and you're getting some high protein in there as well.
More seeds, more indigestible fiber, more toxins, worse health outcomes overall.
And then this right here, I'll be consuming entirely to myself. It's 120 grams of dry rice and 60 grams dry quinoa. There's also 100 grams of Macedonian vegetables, which is corn, carrots, peas. Sometimes they add these little beans in there too, but not this time. As well as mushrooms, which are anti-angiogenesis.
Angiogenesis, I believe. I'm a smooth brain, okay? Whatever. Pretty sure it's the formation of new blood vessels, which, if anything, will be beneficial for healing and repairing your body. So if anything, this is detrimental to your body's own recovery. But I suppose your justification is that these new blood vessels could also be contributing towards tumorous growths in the body, and therefore, by your logic, reducing your body's growth and repair systems would be good, because it'd also be, by that logic, one could make an argument that it's also anti-cancer. But you know, it's, that doesn't sit right with me. You guys, what do you think?
And that'll usually equate to about 4 or 5 bowls. So yeah, I do have a massive appetite. I was bear mode for a number of years. It hasn't been easy to stay lean until I adopted this plant-based way of eating. Because now you can stuff in so much food, micronutrients through the roof, but the calories are on the lower end.
I could say a lot here, but all I say is that someone who's well nourished, who's satiated and getting all the nutrition they require, doesn't typically have a very large appetite, as they've already fulfilled all their dietary requirements. You'd likely want to look at yourself, why are you eating this much? If I eat 200 grams of liver, I'm pretty damn satisfied. In no way am I bloated. I'm ready for a run. Not that I'd run, but you know what I mean. I'm ready for the day and I'm satiated. If you're eating 5 huge bowls of seeds and dead leaves and you've still got a massive appetite, wouldn't that make you think a little introspectively? Maybe I'm still hungry because despite my stomach being filled to bloating, I'm still deficient in many micronutrients. Micronutrients that you're claiming you can achieve on this artificial diet.
So this is like, I mean, 1 plate already, and there's still so much more to go. The calories in this is not that high. So in the cutting phase, obviously, you just have this and you call it. And you might reduce the mixed beans from 200 grams down to 150 or even 125. But I'm getting the majority of the calories through this carb source.
One thing I will say, your beard's looking pretty sick, bro. Look at this fucking... I thought mine was going decent, but I feel so patchy next to yours. Maybe vegans have a point.
And that's what makes me feel good. So it's very much a high carb, low fat way of eating.
If you can look at yourself in the mirror and honestly tell yourself you feel good eating this way, keep it up. To be fair, with the gym, you're generally probably wanting to be a bit higher carb. I'd argue that the gym's bad for you anyway, and you probably shouldn't be going to such extremes that you do. But if you are, you'd kind of be dumb not to be carb the fuck up. But low fat as well. I don't know. What about fat-soluble vitamins? You know what I mean? I suppose as a vegan you can't get any fat-soluble vitamins because any fat source that you'd allow yourself to eat wouldn't have these nutrients in them anyway. I'm talking K2, D3, vitamin A, things like that. Whatever.
And of course, you don't really see it, but there's kale mixed in here as well, 100 grams.
Bro, speed running fucking constipation or something here.
And one thing I forgot to mention regarding the seasoning is that there's a lot of curry powder mixed in here, as well as masala. Now, I've typically followed a more Mediterranean way of eating, but these particular spices are really good for long-term health.
If you're going to eat curry and masala, which just means spice in Hindi, do it for the flavour. That shit does taste fucking bussin'. But let's not be silly and say it's healthy. It's like me saying I'm going to go for a smoke after filming this video for my health, because it's plant-based. I'd be retarded. You can argue I'm retarded for doing it anyway, but it'd be extra retarded to say I'm specifically doing it for health, especially long-term health. Come on.
So of course there's going to be turmeric and black pepper mixed in.
Also terrible for your health. But if you're doing it for flavour, I don't care. Just don't say it's healthy.
And it just adds some flavor to your rice. So you don't need to do this boring, plain, steamed rice. You can have as much flavor as you want.
Think about this though. All your natural senses are telling you that the rice, as you say, is boring, plain. Does that mean we necessarily need to eat rice? If something was naturally great for our bodies, wouldn't our own natural senses make that thing taste better to encourage us to eat it? I don't know. Our senses could be wrong as well, you could argue.
And speaking about making your food taste better, because I know a lot of you guys like to add cheese, this is a better alternative. Nutritional yeast, full of B vitamins, high in protein, barely any calories, and it tastes amazing. So it's a little vegan hack. If you know, you know. I've been having this stuff for years.
Nutritional yeast to imitate cheese.
Also finish off with an orange and an apple. The apple just cleans out your teeth. As they say, 1 apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's basic, you don't need it. Sometimes I alternate with a pear, but the orange, it's either this or tangerines.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of fruit. I'm not sure what you're on about with apples cleaning out your teeth. In a way, I can sort of see where you're getting at. Like if you eat something like a cucumber, for instance, I get it. It sort of like washes everything in your mouth a bit. But the apples are sugar-based and you're sort of caking your teeth in loads of sugar. But yeah, fruit's not that bad. I'm not going to critique that. I will say, if you're eating a shitload of fruit in the middle of winter where you're barely getting any sun, that may not be conducive to optimal health. But there's a lot worse you could be doing. I'm not going to nitpick this shit.
I don't get heme iron in my diet. And actually, that's a pro-oxidant, something you want to avoid. You don't want to be at higher levels of iron as a man. We have no way of really getting rid of it. And actually, you can even cook in a cast iron pan. If after all this, you're still not good, but you should be just fine.
Heme, hemoglobin, iron. Heme iron's simply the version of iron that your body stores. So I'm not sure what you're quite talking about there. You have got some logic to your points about not wanting to consume excess iron as a man. Obviously women menstruate, so they're going to typically lose some iron monthly. Fun fact, this is actually, you could argue, why bloodletting of all things used to be a kind of popular treatment. So yeah, once you've got excess iron in your blood, there's no real way of getting rid of that without just losing blood, really. You have to think, probably ancestrally, our ancestors would have been in forests, they'd have been moving a lot, hunting, they'd have always been getting little scrapes and cuts from random shrubs or animals they're hunting, so they'd have probably bled naturally or through natural causes, you could say, enough throughout their lifetime that they wouldn't have encountered any of these issues. But it's cool, it's kind of like a modern potential problem that could arise from eating in an old-fashioned way. I don't know, it's interesting to me, but whatever.
All right, guys, now I bring you to my third and final meal of the day. Check out this massive supper. We only eat big over here. As you can see, we have a lot of sweet potatoes. In actuality, I'll be consuming 500 grams, but I couldn't fit all that on the plate alongside these other goodies, which is half a block of tofu.
I already know where this is going with the sweet potatoes, but I'm going to let it play out. Sweet potatoes are far from the worst food, to be fair. It's maybe one of the better foods you've ate today. If they're overcooked like these are, they're going to be pretty easy to digest. You're going to get some decent minerals from it. Once again though, this is just a carb-based, i.e. sugar-based meal. You're severely lacking in protein and micronutrients, vitamin A, D3, K2, B12, though you said you supplemented it. I think I cropped that bit out, but you know, we'll do you justice. He did say supplements that we can argue that the supplements, how well they work and if you really absorb it or not. You may want to look at injecting B12 to be fair if you're insistent on being vegan.
This is my primary protein source, as well as good old broccoli.
Broccoli is full of goitrogens, which will inhibit your thyroid's ability to absorb iodine, I don't know, I'm spaghetto.
And what's on it is a special vinaigrette. This is blended leek with garlic, spices, a little bit of vinegar, and split peas, 50 grams. So I'm getting a lot of protein in this meal.
The chef side of me can appreciate a nice vinaigrette. It does actually sound nice. Doesn't sound good for your stomach or your health. And where's the protein? In the peas? The potatoes? And I understand plants do have protein, but we all know that most of it you can't efficiently absorb. Obviously, you've done well for yourself and you're a very successful athlete and bodybuilder despite following a plant-based diet. So, you know, we're not going to make arguments about that. I'd be curious to see if you're still able to follow in the same way you're going in about 5 to 7 years, or what other complications you may have. But regardless, bodybuilding and athletic activities in general aren't really correlated with health anyways. And yeah, for performance, yeah, you are actually good, and I respect you for demonstrating that vegans can achieve high levels of athletic performance despite their handicap of a diet. But in terms of health, all this just looks like a stomach ache and indigestion to me. If you can honestly say that your stomach's fine, eating all this and you feel great, you've got energy, keep it up. I've got no qualms with you eating this way. But if you do encounter issues down the line, you should really keep an open mind is all I'm saying, bro. Don't let yourself get stuck in the echo chambers with the vegans, with vegan gains and whatnot. It'll only do you bad, and you're too smart for these kids.
So I recommend you have sweet potato and regular potato mixed in, but this is obviously better. Purple sweet potato being the highest level that you can get. And it's what the Okinawans used to eat to become centenarians. I mean, if you look at the blue zones, 80% of their diet was sweet potatoes. So it's a myth that potatoes get you fat. This is how I've gone shredded the last 2 times.
There it fucking is. I knew it would come in. I knew he was going to mention the Okinawans. Basically, it's based off flawed research, bro. When do you think they went to Okinawa to research the Okinawans? When were these scientists and the West more in Japan? Perhaps when we were at war with Japan in World War II and there was a whole famine and food shortage, and therefore a lot of the people there who typically live off pork and goats would be eating sweet potatoes as survival food, as the real food was so scarce. If you go back to Okinawa nowadays, a lot of the natives don't even know what a sweet potato is. So what you're saying is a myth, Sonny Jim.
Eating primarily a starch-based diet. You should be having potatoes on a weekly basis. If you're not going through bags of it, to me there's a problem. And this is the #1 choice, and it's been a staple in many bodybuilding diets. So it's not really unusual for me to say that this is one of the better carb sources.
I don't like how you say you should have it, and if you're not having bags a week, there's something wrong. They are a good source of carbohydrates. They're not exactly healthy for us. If they were really healthy and what was optimal for humans, then we should be able to eat them in their raw natural state. How's about you get a full bag of potatoes and try eating 1 or 2 raw? See how your teeth like that. See how your stomach likes it. Don't actually do it. You could actually die from it. But yeah, these are survival foods. Like Coca-Cola. If I was in a desert stranded and for some fucking reason there was a Coca-Cola fucking factory, I'd drink that until I was found. Yes, I'd survive. Potentially years. I wouldn't be thriving, I wouldn't be healthy. These are survival foods. They can get you through a hard time when real food is scarce. But to delude oneself into thinking these are optimal for health in any way is a silly move.
Even when you look at the satiety index, potatoes are ranked as #1. Like a lot of guys, they'll even reduce their vegetable intake and go hard on the sweet potatoes, and they can kind of get away with it. But for me, I'm doing everything combined.
In fairness, I will say that the potatoes are significantly better food than basically any of the leaves or beans you ate throughout the day. Like, yeah, potatoes are kind of empty. They don't really have much great in it for you. Some minerals, like I say, some potassium. When you cook, you could argue you get less. But at the very least, you do get some carbohydrates and calories, energy. You get some energy to go through your day. Whereas with leafy greens, all you're getting is fiber and anti-nutrients, not even any calories to at least cope with. So if anything, probably skip out all the plants and have just potato max, Irish max at that point. You won't be healthy, but you won't feel as bad, and you probably won't be as bloated, maybe.
And then your tofu, quite anabolic. So this is something that I don't really need crazy amounts of. In areas of the world where soy consumption is highest, we have lower rates of breast and prostate cancer. Soy is a health promoting food if you look at the data.
I'm pretty sure in Hong Kong, for example, they have higher rates of smoking than a lot of the countries in the West. They also have a higher lifespan on average. Therefore, smoking prolongs your lifespan. Or maybe, just maybe, correlation doesn't equal causation. Come on, this is 2025.
And then broccoli, that is a superfood.
It's such a superfood. I think you should do like a week or month challenge where you only eat broccoli. See what happens to your thyroid. See what happens just to your life in general. If it's such a superfood, you should be able to live off it, right? Like meat, people argue is a superfood. Obviously, we know of like the Inuit population who essentially exclusively thrive off meat for most of their lives. So, you know, if broccoli is in a similar category, we should be able to do the same with that. I think you should probably do it. You know, just prove the haters wrong and whatnot.
You might find it overrated, a little bit too simple, but I mean, there's not much to say about it. You have the sulforaphane, which is anti-cancer.
Sulforaphane is anti-cancer and anti-inflammation. I'm just going to say almost anything that is correlated with an anti-cancer association. Generally, they come to that conclusion by analysing its effects on cells. Cancer cells are still human cells. If some chemical is so potent that it's able to kill a cancer cell, which is typically, you know, a lot more active, hyper, then what's it going to do to your normal cells? How is a random flower's chemical going to be able to distinguish between the cells in your body? Or is it really more likely that it's just going to kill everything it touches without discriminating between cancerous and non-cancerous cells in your body? It's the same when people say it's anti-inflammatory. What does that mean? Does that mean it actually inflames you and triggers an anti-inflammatory response to fix the inflammation? Because by that logic, if I burn my hand, it's an anti-inflammatory effect because my body will go out of its way to reduce the inflammation. But obviously, that's because I am inflamed to begin with. So you got to think about this. All these studies and all these science boys, a lot of it's based on a load of BS, to be fair with you.
And there you have it, guys. That's my first full day of eating. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot about nutrition.
I learned a lot, like raw onion, obviously anti-cancer.
At least consider eating more plant-based or go all the way. The best thing you could do is drop your saturated fat intake, lower your sodium, and just up some of the healthiest foods on the planet that are very high in micronutrients and lower in calories.
I do like that is against salt. That's refreshing. And I like that is against oil as well. But the thing is, you're following a very unnatural, extreme sort of diet. Like, you're not doing anything for health if you're following this way of eating. Granted, you may be misguided to think you are. That's actually why I was vegan for a little bit before this. I genuinely thought it was better for your health overall. I was also a victim of it. But less saturated fat, like I say, your brain's made of saturated fat. Your entire body needs saturated fat. That's where all the fat-soluble vitamins come from, which is the reason we like it anyway. There's a reason we don't look at things like cement and find that appetizing. It doesn't have anything we can absorb and use. Saturated fat that we're made of, yeah, it makes kind of sense that we can absorb and use them. You got to also remember as well, most of the plants, most of the phytonutrients, the plant nutrients, they are indeed just nutrients for plants. And even herbivores, animals which are way better designed for digesting plant matter, even they struggle. Like obviously cows can't actually digest the grass they eat. They have bacteria metabolize it in the stomach, and then they essentially just eat the bacteria. So they have 4 chambers to the stomachs. We've just got a tiny little appendix. I don't even have an appendix. That used to be, was it a cecum when we were more herbivorous back in the day, allegedly. But yeah, calories as well aren't necessarily good or bad. You can argue if they're really a thing or not. But yeah, if you're wanting high micronutrient foods, he essentially listed 0 micronutrients in his entire day of eating. The entire day was essentially comprised of fiber and carbohydrates, just sugar, basically. If you truly want something high in micronutrients, raw liver, calf's liver, kidney, brain, even raw butter, bone marrow, all of these, you eat a stick of raw butter, you've got more nutrients in one meal than Alex Leonidas got an entire day of eating. So
you're looking for those phytochemicals. Eating foods that, when you look at long-term data, actually improve your health while preventing and even reversing some of the most common diseases that plague Western society.
Correlation doesn't equal causation. There's too many confounding variables in all these long-term studies to be used as any sort of definitive proof either way, even to sort of argue for what I argue for. So we can just throw all that out, sadly. I know it kind of feels very anti-science, but the truth is nutrition, or modern-day nutrition, isn't really scientific at all anyway. It's largely associative studies, correlations, opinion surveys. Just throw it all in the trash. And in the rare instances they are actually reliable, there's still too many confounded variables. It's done in sample sizes too small, or over not long enough time, or with not enough factors being controlled. So whoop, it's all out. This is the same for like meat eating studies as well. They're all just fundamentally flawed. So sorry to be that guy, but no. And also you've got to think, right now in the West, we eat more plant-based than essentially any time in all of our ancestors' history, at least according to everything we know. Maybe we'll be disproved one day. Obviously, if we're talking the evolutionary arguments, you can argue way back, millions of years ago. Yeah, we were more plant-heavy, but we had a completely different digestive system then, completely different from other primates as well. So right now, all the evidence seems to point towards us thriving on more meat and organs, blood if you can find it, animal fat, fish, which is just water animals, and there doesn't seem to be much evidence either way towards plants. Obviously, there's a myriad of bullshit studies that you can cite, but we're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I just get my studies and throw them at you. Take this, and now I use this study and that. Let's just use our brains and think. Most of these studies are bullshit anyway, and I'm tired of just agreeing, oh, okay, well, this study says it, I guess I've got to agree with you. Till when? In like 5 years when the study gets disproven? Why can't I just disagree now when I can tell in my heart of hearts that it's all fundamentally flawed anyway? Whatever. I do think this dude's very smart. He's not your average gym bro. He truly is a legend in many ways to me, but I don't know. If I were going down this path, I mean, I did privately before I posted anything, but I'd have really liked if someone could have just called me out, or at least gently nudged me in the right direction. Alex, if you are doing this for ethics, I understand it as well. I'd argue that it's not ethical to mistreat your own body so, you know, in such a way. You're an animal too, and you have a right to proper nutrition. The same way if you had a cat, you wouldn't feed him a vegan diet. You shouldn't do it to yourself. If it's a health thing though, bro, get out of your echo chamber. I beg you, but whatever.